And, boy, 40 westbound, what a mess. We'll keep you updated on when that... Joan, have they said when that's going to be open? I know when there is obviously a fatal crash, they've got to do all of that investigation.
Right.
And all of the cleanup. It's been a minute. Hasn't it been a while since the original crash happened?
They're saying this has been going on for 2 hours.
Yeah, because it started like right after we got on the air.
Yeah, and just now they changed a little bit of the description. They didn't change the status of the roadway. It's still closed down, 40 westbound between Lebanon, Watertown, and Lebanon. But they're saying that the fatal crash involved 3 tractor trailers. So imagine what it's going to take to clean that up and do the investigation. I think it may be there for a while.
All right. Well, keep us updated, Joan. We've got your traffic every 15 minutes, every 10 minutes, actually, here on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. All right. So the headline is GOP tries to kill hemp farmers, and that would mean no more Delta products. So if you like Delta 9 and some of these other things, well, the Republicans in the Senate pulled a fast one yesterday, and a lot of folks are really mad about this, including people that take these hemp-based products. We're going to talk about exactly what is going on here. And a lot of you folks don't take the Delta products. I understand that. We've talked about legalization of marijuana. We've talked about CBD products and that kind of a thing, medicinal marijuana. This topic falls into that. But there's a lot of people, including veterans, on this Veterans Day who do use these products to be able to deal with their PTSD and those kinds of things. And what the Republicans are trying to do is they're trying to essentially regulate the farmers to the point where they can't produce the Delta products. And Rand Paul out of course, Kentucky, and Kentucky has a ton of hemp farmers in that state. This all came from Mitch McConnell, by the way. And so apparently what they did was the Republicans, as they were working on this continuing resolution, according to Rand Paul, what they did was they slipped this in there, apparently the way that he is saying it, at the last minute.
Instead of a clean CR, this bill contains language that has been airdropped in that will destroy hemp farming in Kentucky and across the United States. Tucked away on page 163, Title 7, Division B of this spending package is a provision that will shut down the hemp industry across the United States.
Yeah, I mean, obviously that is a very big deal for a lot of reasons. And one of the things, as you look at the people that depend on these hemp products, and I'm going to tell you right now, you know who this is a gimme to? The pharmaceutical companies, the alcohol lobby as well. Now, hemp isn't pot, it's a material, and it's used to make everything from like blankets to clothing. It is a massive industry across the country, here in Tennessee as well. But beyond all that, you can also use hemp to make things like Delta 9, edibles, and those types of things. And so let me try to briefly explain this. You have hemp, which is a type of cannabis, and these hemp farmers extract these ingredients from hemp known as THC. And without getting into the weeds, so to speak, on how it's done, they extract this THC, and they extract some oils as well. They mix it with sugar and such, and there you have gummies. It's not pot, but it does have some of the same effects. Now, pot, talking about the difference between pot and, some of these edibles and THC, pot has THC that is found naturally in marijuana. In gummies, that THC is extracted from hemp, then added along with the sugars and all of that. But as you know, the Delta products, these kinds of products, they are legal. But what the Republicans in the Senate are trying to do, again, is regulate the hemp farmers to the point where they can't actually manufacture these kinds of gummies, if you will, the Delta products. They're not going to be able to manufacture them anymore. Now, Rand Paul and this industry, they were in negotiations with the Republicans to try and, regulate the industry to the point where the hemp farmers could still do what they need to do, but not completely ban that industry. Ultimately, though, now what the Republicans are clearly trying to do is ban the industry.
For many farmers, hemp has proved to be a lifeline, a new cash crop. Farmers turn to growing hemp to mitigate the losses they've endured during this season of hardship. But that lifeline may soon be extinguished by this very legislation. The effective hemp ban included in this spending package is a result, we are told, of bad actors skirting the legal limits by overly enhancing the concentration of THC in their products. The hemp industry, myself and others, have come together and we have been willing to negotiate to get rid of the bad actors. And yet, instead, we are met with legislation that would be prohibition.
And Rand Paul is talking about how it's going to be prohibition. Who uses gummies? Actually, Sam and I were just talking off the air. A lot of conservatives use gummies. On this Veterans Day, these gummies, these Delta products, help veterans a lot. People with PTSD, it helps them a lot. People who can't sleep, it helps them a lot. So again, we're talking about how Rand Paul has been talking. He and the industry, the hemp industry, have been negotiating to eliminate some of the bad actors within this industry. But he does say that it is clear that Republicans are trying to kill an entire industry that, you know, Sam, a lot of conservatives use this stuff.
Yeah, and a lot of people that vote conservative may not necessarily identify with the tribalistic moniker of it, but it's going to be pound for pound safer, pun intended, than alcohol. Your worst case scenario, even in a recreational standpoint, isn't going to be, overdosing to the point of liver toxicity and having to be taken to the hospital.
Right.
If you don't know what you're eating, that's on you. But I know plenty of people that are in the upper echelons of local conservative society that use it on a recreational and medicinal basis, and they live totally normal lives.
Do you know what the thing is? I have friends who are conservative, and I'm here to tell you that they are using this stuff, and a lot of veterans use these as well, recreational. So, again, I personally believe that this is a big give up to big pharma, the alcohol industry as well. I mean, I don't want to throw anybody under the bus, but I mean, you got a lot of these conservatives that will say, well, the pharmaceutical industry has plenty of things to help the veterans. You know how expensive that stuff is? Number one. Number two, if you don't have insurance, it is really expensive. And number three, and I don't want to turn into a commercial for these kinds of products, but I will tell you, there have been, I've been talking about this stuff for like years. So many veterans have told me over the years that these Delta products and medicinal marijuana are a godsend for their PTSD, their insomnia, their pain, and their paranoia as well. And Rand Paul, I mean, he was skewering the Republicans for slipping this into the continuing resolution as it goes on over to the House of Representatives. Now, the super text line is going crazy on this topic, just to let you know. And also on the YouTube chat, which we know to pay attention to as well. We appreciate everybody who listens and watches. What are people saying on the YouTube chat about the Republicans in the Senate trying to put the hemp farmers out of business?
Shout out Beach Hill in the YouTube chat saying Rand Paul finally did something worth a darn. I mean, that's a good. Lots of people in support of it. Turd Ferguson asking me what's the law on it. Well, the law is changing January 1st, apparently, on heavy restrictions on this. But people seem to be in agreement that it's not that big of a deal anymore.
Right.
How many times do we hear of a DUI crash involving somebody under the influence of marijuana?
Right.
Alone. Typically,
right.
if it's involved with alcohol or something else. Mm-hmm. It's not that dangerous.
Well,
if anything,
here's my thing is that the Republicans might go down this road of, it's a gateway drug and all that kind of stuff. So is alcohol. And so if you're gonna ban some of this stuff, then you got to ban alcohol too. You know what I mean? Yeah. So to me, I don't think they can talk about how, it's a gateway drug. But see, in my opinion, they can say that. But I think that somewhere the alcohol lobby, big pharma, they got to the Republicans. And here's the deal. If you want to talk about it, and we can have this as sort of a standalone measure, if you will, so that we can have the debate, let's have the debate. But to sneak it into the continuing resolution when Rand Paul and this industry, they were talking about this and they were working out various policies and regulations for the last several months. And I guess they were supposed to go for, a while into the next several months. This conversation was supposed to continue to unfold. For the Republicans to slip it right in there, which is what Rand Paul is accusing, that's kind of chicken, to be honest with you. I think that's kind of chicken. Here's more real quickly from Rand Paul.
The language in this bill will outlaw all current hemp plants and seeds. It changes the definition of what a hemp plant is. It makes it so low that there may not even be an existing plant that can meet the parameters. But every plant in the country will have to be destroyed. Every hemp seed in the country will have to be destroyed. This is the most thoughtless, ignorant proposal to an industry that I've seen in a long, long time.
Let's see here. 4417. I'm a veteran and a Republican voter. I've had the same bottle of whiskey for 3 years because the hemp product is effective for me.
Yeah. It's if we want to talk regulation, because I get there have been cases, especially in Tennessee, maybe a teenager gets a hold of a bag of gummies. They eat almost the whole thing. Now they're in the ER with heart arrhythmias and having a panic attack because they don't know what they've taken. If you want to regulate things to a certain extent, obviously that needs to be in place so we know what we're taking. It used to be when I was in high school, someone brought in a batch of cookies or brownies. You have no idea if you're going to get one super concentrated or one that's a little more on the mild side.
And 3092 says back to the black market. That is exactly what you're talking about.
Encouraging criminality in order to meet your needs at home.
Brad from Twitter says, Dan, you use gummies. So? Is there a problem with that? I don't
know.
I mean,
last I checked.
That they're legal and they help me sleep.
Yeah.
I've been talking about that for years, as a matter of fact. Yesterday when I left here, because here's the thing, and the super text line is going crazy. Most people they're coming of one or two sides. Most people agree with Rand Paul. Most people agree with me. I think that it is not illegal. I think that right now you have the Republicans who are trying to do favors for the lobby of big pharma, maybe big, I don't know, is there a big alcohol? Whatever.
Oh, yeah.
But I just think that if you're, my mind is always on this Veterans Day 2025. My mind is always on the veterans. And I feel bad for those veterans that depend on these gummies to help them with all of the things that they have to use to deal with the PTSD and all the other things that come with, being in the theater of war, and they're not going to be able to use them anymore. Yeah. So now you're going to have doctors saying, well, go get this prescription from this pill from Big Pharma. And it's like, number one, it's expensive. Number two, some of that stuff is really addictive. So I don't know what the Republicans are thinking. I'm going to be honest with you. I don't know what the Republicans are thinking here. It feels a little, on the surface, if you wanted to go surface, you could say, oh, there's a lot of pearl clutching here. I don't think it's pearl clutching. I think that they've given up to the various
lobbyists.
The lobbyists.
Well, and that would be playing the short-term game. If you're going to be in office for the next, 4 to 5 years, take your lobbyist money. I get it. But if you were to get this regulated on a state-to-state basis, maybe include a federal tax, the government would profit immensely from this. State of Colorado went recreational in 2016.
Yeah.
And I'm pretty sure they have been in the financial black ever since. And they have some of the nicest roads in the country, and no one drives them because it's Colorado.
1701, free the weed. It's not weed. That's the thing. You've got to differentiate between weed and Delta. Yeah, it's a spectrum.
And so what's outlawed is your standard tetrahydrocannabinol, but not the spectrum elements of THCA, THCP, Delta 8. That is what was the loophole in the federal farm bill, and it's authoritarian to try and or authoritarian, as Dan would say.
Shut up.
To try and force that agenda on people. Mm-hmm. It's a plant.
Yeah. Well, here's the deal. Again, I'm trying to get Dustin Kittle on because he was Dustin Kittle, our farmer lawyer, guy that specializes in that stuff. Because he went off the rails on the socials yesterday talking about this, and he is obviously against it. By the way, people are asking who is behind it. Apparently, one Mitch McConnell, which is bizarre. Do you know what's bizarre about that? What's bizarre about that is that Mitch McConnell is from Kentucky. And Kentucky is going to get a huge hit on this, which is why Rand Paul is going off the rails on this.
Well, and it's medicinal in Kentucky. We took calls, if you remember a couple months ago, a woman saying that her husband who passed away from cancer was on it medicinally in Kentucky, and it was hard to get and it was expensive. This will make it more expensive.
Hey, go ahead, finish, and then I got one.
Oh, it's just there's nothing on the pharmaceutical market when it specifically comes to treating certain ailments that can do what cannabis can do.
So, you're right. And do you know, because, they have these hemp products in, like, you can have hemp-based drinks.
Yep.
I don't go that far, but do you know what city is the top of the list for hemp-based drinks?
Nashville.
That's exactly right.
According to Ken Weaver, it's a $2 billion industry, just the seltzers alone.
Jonathan Fahey is going to join me here in a second. I want to get Jonathan's, I know you're on hold, so I want to get your reaction, Jonathan, and everybody listening. I did not cover this yesterday, even though I should have. Bad talk show host. But I had a lot going on yesterday, so I want to go ahead and do this today. Chicago Mayor Brandon Johnson. Did you see this? So he went in front of the United Nations. Did you see this? And he wants the United Nations to step in because Chicago says, the liberals in Chicago says that Donald Trump must be breaking some sort of law as he is sending ICE in to get out the bad guys. Listen to this.
The federal government's immigration enforcement has been marked by violence and an assault on the dignity of all Chicagoans. I call on this council to hold the federal government of the United States to the same standards of accountability you apply elsewhere in the world. No country should be above international law.
Wow.
I urge the Human Rights Council to consider additional measures of accountability, including a special session to examine the worsening human rights crisis in the United States.
So a few things just real quick, and then I'm going to play some audio from Tom Homan. But he's speaking to the United Nations, asking them to intervene. The United Nations, this is silly, of course, because, number one, the United Nations, they don't get involved in domestic issues like this. That's number one. And number two, the United States actually has veto power within the United Nations. So right now, Donald Trump is the United States president, and we could veto if they wanted to step in as ICE is trying to get out the bad hombres in Chicago. But they can't, because that's not part of what the United Nations does. The United Nations Charter, they do not interfere with domestic law enforcement. So Brandon Johnson, and I agree with Tom Homan, borders are, when he says...
He just proved he's not that smart, right? I mean, asking the United Nations to interfere with ICE enforcing U.S. law, it's like asking an arsonist how to stop a fire. Because the UN, remember, the IOM, the part of the UN, helped fund the mass migration during the Biden administration 4 years, spending millions upon millions of dollars helping that migration, international migration, come to the United States. So, the United Nations is not going to tell President Trump what to do.
There you go. Tom Homan, want to welcome on into the program Jonathan Fahey. I thought that it was awfully rich of the Chicago mayor to beg the United Nations for help because obviously, as Tom Homan said, there's a number of things at play. Number one is that is not their purview. That's not the United Nations purview. Donald Trump could veto it if he wanted to. But you know what? ICE is just trying to get out the bad guys.
Yeah, the whole thing with Brandon Johnson, it's almost, I'd really be interested to know if he takes himself seriously, because nobody does, and it's just so bizarre. But it just shows how easy it is to be a Democrat politician, because Chicago's objectively a disaster, right? Nobody that graduates their high schools can read or do math. Crime is through the roof. Taxes are through the roof. businesses and people are fleeing in droves, other than illegal aliens. And this guy, that's the way he uses his time. And it just shows you really not just obviously he's not smart, but it just shows you don't need to be smart to really thrive and succeed in Democratic politics. You just have to be able to resort to silly nonsense and do it with a relatively straight face. And you really get elevated within that party. And it's pathetic in multiple ways. And, it's funny. Yeah, ICE is actually getting rid of the bad guys, but Brandon Johnson couldn't care less. He didn't care less about crime before this all started, so he doesn't care at all now. So it's pathetic on multiple levels, but it really just speaks to the Democratic Party more than anything else.
Jonathan, do you think that part of this is narrative control? Like, I truly believe that Brandon Johnson is a stupid individual. I do believe that. He is stupid. But he must know that the United Nations, they don't deal with, domestic law enforcement issues. They just don't. In other words, I think this is all about Brandon Johnson trying to portray the narrative that Donald Trump is committing some sort of, international crime.
Yeah, I agree with you. I agree he's stupid, but he's not that stupid. And yeah, you're right. It's all to basically come down on Donald Trump, come down on this immigration enforcement, because the Democrats, that really in so many respects, they promote an anti-American agenda in a lot of respects with the Democratic Party, and certainly a pro-open borders agenda. So anything he can do or they can do to make Donald Trump look bad, make ICE look bad, helps their agenda. But yeah, I agree. He's not, how stupid he is, I don't know. It's probably pretty stupid, but you're right. It doesn't get to this level of stupid. He knows, hey, people will talk about it, and there are people that will at least take it seriously, or at least take the focus on or off of what he does as mayor of that city, because by objective standards, he and that governor they have there have been objective failures. And now, instead of being treated as failures, they're treated as actual leaders within the Democratic Party.
I got a headline for you. I don't know if this would surprise you or not, but just posted a couple of hours ago. So President Trump posting on Truth as late as last night, call in the troops fast before it's too late, talking about what is going on in Chicago. But according to the Chicago Tribune, federal immigration agents under the command of Gregory Bovino may soon leave the Illinois metropolitan area as the Trump administration Operation Midway Blitz, winds down after 2 months of contentious raids on alleged undocumented immigrants, they say. So, the Trump administration, they say they've made more than 3,000 arrests since beginning its operations a couple of months ago. So, I don't know. Do you see, is it now the time for ICE to stand down? It still feels like there's work to be done in Chicago.
Yeah, it certainly does seem like there's work to be done, and I think it may be more of like this surge or this particular operation. I don't feel like they're standing down and not going to continue to deport people. And you look at, like you said, with this Operation Midway Blitz, I think Trish McLaughlin posted it today on Twitter or on X, talked about how much crime generally, not just illegal immigration crime, but crime generally has plummeted during this. So most people in Chicago, I don't think most people are reflected in what you see on the streets and see on the news. Most people are way better off and are probably happy about this. But my guess is, they have a lot of people surging from other areas, a lot of Border Patrol that were regularly stationed other places that have been there. So maybe they're going home, maybe they're refocusing, maybe they're, I don't really know. But I don't see any scenario that ICE is going to stop arresting illegal aliens, particularly the criminals, and particularly the fact that we are getting all of these new ICE agents brought online and Border Patrol agents brought online over the next probably 6 months or so. So I think they're going to stay at a high level, but this particular operation may wind down.
We have the president bringing in, I think probably 4 cities, right? Well, 5, 6, 7. You got Portland, L.A., Chicago. You've got Memphis. You've got, of course, Washington, D.C. And each city seems to have its own unique legal challenges. And so I'm sort of become lost in all of the various court rulings as it makes its way through the legal system. At some point, do you think the Supreme Court is just going to say, listen, the president is allowed to bring ICE into these cities and they're allowed to do what they're doing? And then, of course, you're going to have, all kinds of mayhem ensue if they actually side with Donald Trump. Where are all the legal processes these days? Like, where are we at?
Yeah. I think there are a number of cases. There's the National Guard case in the Ninth Circuit. There are cases I believe in Chicago. I believe it's the Seventh Circuit. So I think what's going to ultimately happen is they are going. One of these cases will get to the Supreme Court, and the Supreme Court is going to say two things. One, it's Donald Trump's judgment alone to decide when the National Guard is needed to enforce federal law, or meaning if federal law is not able to be enforced because of all the obstruction, you can bring the National Guard in. And I think that's where they're going to come out on this. And it's very interesting when you see Gavin Newsom and Pritzker and what's going on in Oregon. These leaders there actually make the best case for bringing in the National Guard because they're using their authority, meaning Pritzker and Newsom. I don't know the name of the person in Oregon, but they're using their authority to prevent federal law from being enforced, which is almost the definition of why you can bring it in when they're unable, meaning the federal government, to enforce federal law with regular forces. Well, you have the states fighting them, so they're the best advocates for the National Guard. And it is funny, the two guys that seem like they're, jockeying to be the Democrat alpha, basically Newsom and Pritzker, those are the states that are having the problems. And it's kind of funny. It's like, are there really are these problems really just created by these two governors? Because you don't hear about these problems in other states, particularly in red states. So it does show that a lot of these are manufactured in a bad way. Like you look at Pritzker is basically a larger version in many ways of Brandon Johnson. And he would be a nobody. He'd be a failed governor, but now he's a leader within that party. He gets on the Sunday shows, and this guy has no business being on those shows, but because he's against Trump, they put him on there, and because he's pro-open borders, pro-amnesty, they put him on there. So he gets this platform by simply defying federal law being enforced, which actually should be a disqualifying factor, not an enhancement to his resume.
Well, you read things like this. I shared this briefly with folks yesterday. Bill Malughian reporting that his sources within ICE have confirmed that a drunken illegal alien from Mexico has killed an elderly woman in Orange County, California. He's had an active deportation order since 2012. A 57-year-old Humberto Muñez Garcia, a Mexican national, was arrested by ICE in 2011 for being in the U.S. illegally. He was released by the Obama administration, ICE, with a notice to appear in court, never, of course, showed up, and was ordered deported in absentia by a federal immigration judge in 2012. I mean, he's been a fugitive for years, and now we have yet another American dead. So we see these stories, and it is stunning that the Democrats don't have the self-awareness to realize that they literally have blood on their hands.
Yeah, exactly. And if it wasn't for Bill Malughian being all over this issue, we wouldn't really even know, and we still really don't even know the scope of how many of these there are. But, it's people like him that have been all over this issue that really has brought it to the attention. But, yeah, you're exactly right, because and the worst thing about it is with these Democrat sanctuary cities policies, in some states, even if this person were convicted of this particular crime now, they'd release him back into the United States, which is it's beyond shocking, but that's the way the Democrats view this. Everyone wants to stay. They view these illegal aliens as either current or future voters. Yep. But we don't have any idea how many crimes have been committed by illegal aliens because it's very hard to track that. But thankfully, Bill is all over this. But yeah, there are people that are dead today that should still be alive. We always have talked about Laken Riley, but there are many, many more of these people that should be alive, and they didn't even deport the people that were ordered deported. And I think there's over 1 million people that have already been ordered deported by an immigration judge, and those are the people the Democrats still fight to keep in the country. It's so shameful.
It is shameful, and I believe that a lot of people are upset with this interview that Donald Trump gave to Laura Ingraham last night. I don't know if you've seen it. I don't know if you've heard about it. But the president said a few things that some would consider non-MAGA. And I'm encouraging people that even though there's some things that I disagree with Donald Trump as well that he said last night, you've got to keep everything in its proper perspective. He's got some work to do on the prices of groceries. That is well understood. I don't like the fact that he wants to bring in 600,000 Chinese students, which we're going to talk about in the 8 o'clock hour. But look at where we were 2 years ago with Joe Biden. You've got to keep that in perspective. Any final thoughts, Jonathan?
Yeah, you're exactly right. I mean, he is so tuned into these issues and actually addressing it so effectively. And the one thing I think he should get credit for that he doesn't enough is he listens to people and he's willing to, listen to other people's perspectives. And that's a good quality. And the fact that, you can't, there's nobody you will agree with 100% of the time. And nor do you want somebody like that. But overall, things are going in a phenomenally good direction. Look at overdose deaths at the end of this year. Look at crime stats. We will see massive drops in that, and that will be because of what he's been doing.
All right, Jonathan, how can people follow you on X?
John for Fairfax, JONFORFAIRFAX.